Hello folks! I recently appeared in a video on my friend Terry's channel where I demonstrated a little project I've been working on, and quite a few people asked for more details on it, so here you go, that's what this video is for. The idea here is a smoke unit for G-scale trains that doesn't use heat or smoke fluid. I can't take full credit for this idea, and there's actually a fellow over in the UK called TRS Trains who specializes in installing these in 00 scale models, but mine is the first G-scale version I've seen. The mechanism is the same as those little USB-powered desktop humidifiers. You fill it up with water, and the water flows up through an absorbent wick to a small piezoelectric disc with a bunch of tiny holes in it. The driver board sends power to the disc to make it vibrate at a very high frequency, and the vibration atomizes the water and propels the resulting fine mist upwards and out of the smokestack. The result is essentially room temperature steam. Since it's just water, it's perfectly safe to use indoors, it doesn't trigger allergies, and you don't have to buy any expensive smoke fluid. I also happen to think it looks a bit more realistic than traditional model train smoke because it doesn't have that wispy effect that breaks the illusion of scale. These little ultrasonic atomizers are widely available all over the internet and they're very cheap, but you do have to know what you're looking for. If you search ultrasonic mist maker, you'll find them, but you'll also find the much larger garden fog generators. I've experimented with those as well, but didn't find them very useful for trains. What you want are the small 20mm discs that come with a USB-powered driver board. This exact model is the best one I've found, and it also seems to be the most commonly available one. These are extremely cheap, usually around $5 each, and I recommend buying quite a few of them because you will inevitably break some while you're experimenting. In the early stages of this project, I was buying them in 10 packs from Banggood. Before trying to build a smoke unit, I recommend just playing with these for a while and getting a feel for how they work. When the disc is powered up, it will produce fog as long as there's water touching the back side of it. The wick is the most finicky part, but unfortunately I've yet to find a workable configuration to put in a train that doesn't use the wick. You have to make sure the top end of the wick touches the bottom of the disc, but doesn't put too much pressure on it as that can dampen the vibrations and reduce the steam output. It takes some trial and error to get it just right, and the best method I found is to measure the exact distance between the bottom of the water tank and the bottom of the disc, and cut the wick to that exact length down to a fraction of a millimeter. I've installed this system in 2 locomotives so far, and the first one that I got to work was this Bachmann Anniversary Edition 460. If we take the front off the smoke box, you can see a 3D printed water tank inside. This hole can be used to refill the tank, but you can also do that through the top. If we take off the smokestack, you can see the atomizer disc in there. The other locomotive is an Aristocraft 280, and this one actually has a simpler arrangement. Instead of a tank inside the smoke box, in this one, the smokestack itself serves as the tank, with the disc mounted near the top inside the spark arrestor, and the wick going all the way down to the bottom. This means there's a lot less room for water inside than the Bachmann engine has, but it still holds enough to run for 15 to 20 minutes before it has to be refilled. The Bachmann engine occasionally has issues with water condensing on the inside of the stack, dribbling down it, and dripping onto the disc where it floods it. It takes the disc a few minutes to chew its way through all that water, so you lose smoke output for a little while. It's fine, it doesn't damage it, but it does mean that the smoke works a bit intermittently if that's happening a lot. The Aristocraft doesn't have that problem, and the steam goes straight out the top without passing any walls to condense on, so it can run uninterrupted pretty much indefinitely as long as you keep refilling it. As I mentioned before, these things are intended to run on USB, which is between 5 and 6 volts DC. Now, since I'm using radio control in these engines, the ESC has a regulated 6 volt output, which is designed to run servos and the receiver and stuff, so I can just piggyback off of that. I'm running the headlights off of that as well. If you're running track power, you're gonna need to get a little creative. Either you need a 5 volt regulator and a bridge rectifier to make sure the polarity is correct, or just use a battery pack. 4 AA's would be fine. At some point, I am planning to publish the 3D printer files for these 2 locomotive installations, but I'd like to get the design a bit more refined first, and every installation is gonna be different anyway. I do think it's only a matter of time before these will replace traditional heat-based smoke units, and I would love to see someone come out with a universal kit to install these in G-scale locomotives. However, I hope this has answered some of your questions, and I hope it's inspired you to do some tinkering of your own. I love it when people tinker with stuff like this because that's how this kind of stuff gets invented. I'm sure that's what TRS Trains was doing. Speaking of which, big thanks to TRS Trains for, I don't know if they were the ones who invented this, but they certainly perfected it, and maybe they did invent it, who knows? I think several people invented it simultaneously because I experimented with this years ago. Also, big thanks to my friend Terry for letting me film on his layout and for letting me test run his live steam engines. That's something I might have to get into at some point in the future. Anyway folks, thank you for watching, have a happy and safe holiday season, and I will see you next time.